In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a reusable bowl cover. These ones are waterproof because they have a food-safe plastic lining in them, which makes them easy to wipe down, and it will also keep the moisture inside of the bowl. The free pattern comes with a small, medium, and large size, and the small fits about a cereal bowl size, while the large fits a salad bowl size. I'm going to make the small bowl cover in this tutorial, and so we have our two pattern pieces cut out. We need one in a cotton fabric or linen fabric, and then your food safe plastic or PUL, and then you need about 28 inches of bias tape and a piece of 1/4 inch wide elastic cut to 12 inches. The first step is to place your two pieces of fabric wrong side together. This fabric has more of a rough texture on the wrong side, where the right side is a bit smoother. So place those together and then clip around the edges. The next step is to sew your bias tape on. I like to sew it to the plastic side first. And I start with about 1.5 inches free. So I would start sewing about there, leaving this free. And I make sure that the edge of my bias tape just slightly covers the edge of my circle. I also don't like to clip it into place. I just kind of guide it as I sew. And I sew right in that folded crease, and make sure you don't stretch the bias tape as you sew. Just gently guide it into place. As you come back around, you want to stop stitching about 2 or 3 inches away from where you started stitching. To join your two ends of bias tape, there are lots of ways you can do this, but this is a simple method that won't be obvious once your elastic is in place. So find about the center point of where you stopped and started stitching, and just place your first side down as though it was sewn into place, and then fold it back so you have a clean folded edge. And you want to fold it straight back, making sure that these edges line up. You can finger crease that into place and then just clip it down as though it was sewn into place. And then you're going to do the same with the other side, but you want to leave about a 1/8 inch gap there. So line that up at the top so that you have just a little bit of space between this fold and that fold, and then just fold that straight back and finger press. Now you can unfold those and draw on the lines where you crease that with a fabric marker. This will just make it a bit easier to see when you're sewing. Now you're going to line those two lines up, and you can use one pin to pin it into place. And then you can stitch right along that line. Before you cut your ends off, just make sure that that piece of bias tape is going to sit flat and it's not too long or too short. And if everything looks good, cut that off and finger press the seam open. And now you can finish sewing down that side of the bias tape, meeting the two ends. Now you can flip your bias tape to the right side. And we're going to make sure that the other side of our bias tape covers the line of stitching that we just completed. If there are any places where it doesn't quite stretch to cover that, you can just trim away some of the excess along the edge here. And then just clip that into place. Using a temporary fabric marker, just mark 2 lines so you know where to stop and start your stitching, and just to be sure you don't stitch that all the way closed. We need to leave an opening so that we can thread our elastic through. And the other thing you want to keep in mind as you're sewing is you want to sew fairly close to this inside folded edge, because we need to leave a channel that's wide enough for our safety pin to be threaded through. attach a safety pin to one end of your elastic, and then you can use a second one just to ensure that that end doesn't accidentally get pulled all the way through, and just clip it onto the opening of your bias tape, and then just thread this elastic through. Now you can stitch the two ends together just by overlapping them and zigzagging or going back and forth if you want more of a smooth finish in there, but I find a balloon knot is much easier and quicker to do. Now we just want to tuck this knot back inside of the part of the bias tape that we've already sewn, just so we don't have to try and stitch around it. So just pull your elastic to get it tucked in there, and you can also try using a point turner to push it in. Once your knot is tucked back there, you can just sew the rest of your bias tape down. And the final step is to just even your gathers out around the circle. And there's your finished bowl cover.